A different breed of Green Beret. This is Sega Masters. It is September 1986, and the Sega Master System has just made its first official appearance in the United States. We spent the previous 2 episodes covering the pack and cartridge from its debut bundle, and now we can begin tackling the console's Western catalog in earnest, starting with the remainder of the launch lineup from its first month in North American shores. The thing is, most of that first round of titles for the Master System were translated and repackaged versions of the Mark III's initial offerings from Japan, which consisted almost entirely of home conversions from Sega's arcade stable, including a few coin-ups that never left Japan and thus wouldn't be familiar to American gamers. Such is the case with the subject of today's episode, Teddy Boy, one of the first titles crafted for Sega's 8-bit platform, along with Hang On, which was also a home port of an arcade title that never appeared in North American gaming halls, yet has an unusual backstory to it. Also like Hang On, Teddy Boy is also one of the first Mark III and Master System titles to be released on a smaller capacity Sega card in both Japan and the Western market instead of a Mega cartridge. In Japan, the Mark III originally utilized not one but 2 formats for its software catalog. The top tier titles would be released on pricier cartridges, while the Sega cards, or My Cards as it's known in its native land, would be used for a series of smaller games retailing for a lesser price than its cartridge brethren. Not unlike the lines of budget titles computer game companies used to roll out back in the day. Oddly enough, when Sega brought the Master System to the US and subsequently Europe, they decided to follow in the footsteps of its Japanese brethren by using both formats for the console's software, though this dual format system lasted just over a year before the cards were quietly phased out. With its minimal presentation and simple arcade-style gameplay, Teddy Boy certainly looks and plays very much like a 1980s budget computer title at first glance. The game centers around the eponymous Teddy Boy, a young lad decked out in a green beanie and armed with what appears to be a Tommy gun, who's trapped in a series of nightmarish mazes for whatever reason. With various hostile creatures swarming through each level looking to hunt down and slay the poor lad, you need to help Teddy dispatch them first. North American gamers probably never knew about the backstory of the original arcade version, which again was never released outside of Japan, and was tied to a then popular pop star in the land of the rising sun, Yoko Ashino, specifically to a hit song she had at the time. Around 1985, Miss Ashino made her debut as a pop idol with her song Teddy Boy Blues, a 1950s-style ballad about falling in love with a teddy boy, a term referring to a well-dressed tough guy. Teddy Boy Blues became a hit on the Japanese pop charts, and Sega felt inclined to capitalize on its popularity by striking a deal with Miss Ashino's record label to license the song for an arcade machine. Thus we have the Teddy Boy Blues coin-up, designed by Yoji Ishii, who also created Flicky. As you can see here, the title screen features Miss Ashino's likeness leading an ensemble of the game's characters in a rendition of the song, and she also appears in the game's bonus stages. As for the game itself, it's a standard kill or be killed platformer that has nothing to do with the actual subject of the song whatsoever, yet a chiptune version of the song is still used as the main background music for the hectic action. Apparently the coin-up did well enough to warrant getting translated to the home platform, though it's worth noting when Teddy Boy Blues was originally ported to Sega's 8-bit console in Japan, not only was the full name from the arcade version retained, but the song continued to be used for the background music as well, yet Miss Ashino herself was nowhere to be found in the home version. The song was then removed for the versions later released outside of Japan and replaced with a rather generic tune, and the word blues was dropped from the title as well, completely severing the association with Yoko Ashino. Otherwise, the 2 versions are identical gameplay-wise. Teddy Boy consists of 50 levels, each of which seem large, but in reality wraps around itself in all directions. Your bloodthirsty foes emerge from dice scattered around the level that count down from 6 to 1, indicating how many creatures are still to pop out of them, and you need to stay on your toes as they haphazardly hop around the area, since Teddy perishes from just one touch from his enemies. Scoring a hit with your minigun will shrink them into little balls you need to collect in order to clear them out entirely, not unlike Joust. You must dispatch all your foes in the level within the given time limit, and any balls you fail to snag eventually transform into bugs that literally devour your timer. If that wasn't enough, the floor beneath your feet will start to disintegrate if you stand in one place for too long, so you're forced to constantly be on the move. You pass the level should you survive long enough to clear out all the baddies, and after getting awarded your time bonus, it's time to confront the next wave of hostile creatures. While this home version of Teddy Boy is a mostly faithful conversion of the coin-op, the vibrantly colored graphics are a slight downgrade from its arcade parent since the action takes place against some rather blah single-colored backgrounds. At least the sprites are very close facsimiles to their coin-op counterparts and sport some okay animation. The generic tune that replaces Yoko Ishino's song is decent for what it is, but does eventually grow tiresome after hearing it for levels on end, and it just isn't as fun to listen to as the original song. Every so often you get to take part in a bonus stage, though neither of the minigames from the coin-op made it into this home version. Here you're merely shooting the dice to uncover prizes for bonus points, but watch out as a few of them contain enemies that cut your timer short. With this being an American console game, it is somewhat surprising, if not a little disturbing, how cigarettes and beer can be found among the prizes. Once you're awarded the points for the prizes you managed to discover, it's back to more monster blasting, and so it goes. The gameplay changes very little throughout the entire 50 levels, and being a straight-up arcade conversion means nothing new or unique was thrown in for the home audience. At least being forced to constantly be on the move keeps things from getting dull. In fact, the constant chaos is actually engaging and can even be a little addictive. At the same time, however, the difficulty spikes pretty quickly, and your foe's seemingly random movements don't help matters. You could find yourself suffering more than a few unfair sudden deaths, which can get on your nerves before too long. Fortunately, the mostly responsive controls give you a good chance to survive the mayhem, though this is but one of many Master System platformers that uses the reverse of the so-called standard layout found in similar titles on the NES. In other words, button 1 on the left jumps and button 2 on the right fires your weapon instead of the other way around, and it takes a little practice to get a handle on. Your game ends once your lives are exhausted, with no continues offered, yet there's no ending or any reward for your perseverance. Once you pass level 50, the game simply loops back to level 1 and continues indefinitely. Thus, all you're playing for are high scores, with no leaderboard to record them to. Such a gameplay mindset would quickly become out of fashion, if not antiquated, in the late 1980s home console market before too long. In conclusion, Teddy Boy comes off as just another somewhat generic arcade platform on the Master System that doesn't really offer anything noteworthy or unique to the genre. It can even seem a little dated when compared to the later offerings on the console. Nonetheless, the game is decent and fun for what it is, and if you can get past some of the frustration, it can be a nice choice for a quick Sega session.